Okay, it's 10 o'clock, it's 10 in the morning, Central European time. I will take the floor at this point and we can officially start today's webinar. First of all, a big welcome to everybody. Good morning, afternoon or evening, depending to where you are. Everybody, welcome today to attend today's Skillman webinar. I hope you all had a great beginning of the year. Actually, this is the first webinar that we're having in 2021, and I'm really happy to see many friendly names that are around all our activities and have been following Skillman's webinars. I would also like to give a big thanks to the Assembly of European Regions for their huge contribution in the organization of the webinar today, and also all the speakers and our moderators for today's activity. First thing, I would just give a few instructions of the webinar for all the participants who just connected with us today. As you see from, as you may have noticed, all the participants have their microphones muted and their cameras switched off by default at this very time. That doesn't mean you can't contribute into today's webinar. On the contrary, please feel free to send your questions and write your comments in the Q&A box that you see at the bottom bar of your screen here below at any time throughout the whole webinar. When the Q&A space will come, we will collect all the questions that you'll be asking and we will address them directly to the speakers. Alternatively, you can also click on the raise your hand button that you see here below and ask your questions directly. So I hope that is a useful information for everybody. Today's webinar is about new enthusiasm for vocational education and training, boosting self-confidence in young people. At this point, I'm just going to introduce myself very quickly. My name is Valentina De Vico. I am the communication manager of the Skillman team located in Florence, Italy. Here I just noted down in this slide a few keywords about today's webinar and the topics that we're going to address. So today we're going to talk about young people, about youngsters, and we will mainly answer one main questions. How can we generate new enthusiasm for vocational training and boost the self-confidence of potential TVET students? I will give the floor just in a while to our moderator, who will get more in detail about the topic of today's webinar. But from my part, on behalf of the Skillman team, I would just like to give a quick introduction of the Skillman team, of the Skillman network in general, and give a few updated highlights about the network. So first of all, Skillman is an international network. Actually, it's a network of networks that involves many stakeholders all around the world. These are updated numbers about 2020, and as you see, we have reached more than 600 members coming from 300 different regions. It's very hard to imagine, but that's it. And they come from 93 different countries. Now, we have more than 50 ambassadors that spread the principles and ethics of the Skillman network. and they come from different backgrounds. We have education providers, industries, individuals, centers of vocational excellence, accreditation bodies, and so on, TBET providers, policymakers. In 2020, we have created 4 peer learning clubs. There are focus groups, including 208 experts that regularly engage in activities and discussions of 4 different topics related to TVET. With whom, in 2020, we have published 4 different position papers on one for each of the topics. Also, digitally, we have engaged many stakeholders. We have right now more than 5,000 registered users on our website, Skillman.eu. Since the creation of the network, we have been implementing a series of activities, 18 webinars on EU funds opportunities. Actually, today's webinar is one of them. And the aim of those webinars is to engage our stakeholders and create strategic partnerships. Also, we have organized seminars that were embedded in the EU Skills Week. We have endorsed the Pact for Skills. And every year, our biggest event is the Skillman International Forum. And in 2020, we have hosted 470 delegates coming from all over the world. We are going to implement a few activities in the upcoming months. For example, train the trainer workshops, desk service for SMEs, and so on. This is just a quick reference on the geographical range on where our members are located in the world. Just again, to give a very quick overview of where our members are scattered. And again, more than 600 active members from 93 countries. The Skillman network is embedded in the Skillnet project, that is the EU-funded project that is aimed at developing, at implementing a strategy to develop a large network of COVIDs. And we are in an alliance in collaboration with a series of international organizations. I mentioned already the Assembly of European Regions, who give a big contribution in the implementation of today's webinar, and also IVETA, the International Vocational Education and Training Association, EAPRIL, and then ETF, the European Training Foundation. I would like to just extend my invitation, since you're here attending today's webinar, to join our peer learning clubs, our 4 thematic focus groups. My colleague Julia will share right now with you the links in the chat box. So why am I inviting you there? Because today's webinar will address some topics that we will discuss further later after the webinar in the peer learning clubs. You can see the 4 main topics around which the peer learning clubs are going to engage and continue in the discussion. And I think you will find them interesting since you are interested in the topics of today. I remind to all of you that we are live streaming on the Skillman YouTube channel. Again, Julia is sharing with you the link. So if you have any technical difficulties to follow the webinar on this platform, you can also join us there. And one last thing before giving the word to our moderator of today, we really value very much your feedback. Every time at every webinar, we share a feedback form with you so you can evaluate the quality of the webinar. And we're doing this again today. So again, Julia, please share with our participants the link of our feedback form. Please take a few minutes just to complete this and to give us a feedback about the quality of the webinar. The time has come. Sorry, Hrvoje, for taking so much longer. He's going to be the moderator of today's session. So Hrvoje Kovac, the chair of AER Subcommittee on Youth from Varazdin in Hungary. Please, Hrvoje, the floor is yours. I swear I won't talk anymore. Thank you, Hrvoje.
Grazie, Valentina. Hello, everybody. I will not say good morning or good evening because apparently people from Uganda, Jamaica are already here. So I'm not sure about the time difference, but okay. So just hello to everybody. Thank you very much for this great introduction to Skillman. Obviously, you have everything that we need. So it's always good to cooperate with you. Well, my name is Hrvoje, and maybe Valentina did pronounce it quite okay, but usually, as some of you know, my official AER name is Steve. Trust me, it's much easier for you to pronounce it, and I'm so used to it that I'm already thinking of using that name as my official middle name. Currently, I'm working as deputy mayor in the most beautiful part of Croatia. Of course, I'm talking about the northern part that nobody wishes to see because of the Croatian coast. But we are happy to live in solitude from global tourist infestation in Croatia, in the north. And as you can see in the agenda of today's webinar, I'm acting at the moment as chair of the AER subcommittee on youth, which is connected directly to the topic. And since I've mentioned already several times AER, please allow me just to make a short introduction of it, of AER, of the Assembly of European Regions. Well, AER is the largest independent network of regions in wider Europe, gathering regions from 35 countries, from Norway to Turkey, from Russia to Portugal. And AER is present everywhere on the European continent, inside and outside of the European Union. You will not find this information on the official webpage, but as I can modestly say, everyone who is important is a member of AER. Therefore, AER is the place for the regional stakeholders across the European continent to be, such as politicians, officers, experts, advisors, anybody who is important. And we all stand strong to promote Europe that embraces its diversity to thrive in this global world. To conclude, with member regions from 30 countries, AER is the voice of the regional authorities since 1985 and has played a pivotal role in recognizing regions as key players in the European construction. But without any further ado, because we reserved online space just for 1 hour, because Bernie Sanders is having charity auction for his famous gloves, I bid you all a warm welcome to today's webinar on the topic of new enthusiasm for vocational training and education, boosting self-confidence. Well, today's and tomorrow's webinars are focused on policies and practices that encourage young people and provide them with adequate support so they remain interested in learning in a global context that is particularly challenging. Underachievement in education undermines young people's trust in their own capacities. It increases a feeling of failure, which affects their interest in education and training. Boosting self-confidence, therefore, is a major lever to rediscover an interest in learning, even before the actual engagement in education and training. In order to help young people to thrive and prevent early leaving from education and training, even schools, policies, public policies, and practices aimed at boosting self-confidence therefore are crucial. Another major element in helping young people to succeed in offering more tailored training pathways to offer different pathways to success and increase learners' interest. And despite its importance in preparing a high-skilled workforce and very tangible opportunities it offers on the labor market, vocational education and training, VET, doesn't carry the same image as attending university. On one hand, gifted young people may feel discouraged from enrolling in VET because of negative perceptions about its value. And on the other hand, young people enroll in vocational education and training may feel that this is a choice with less prestige and opportunities. This can in turn negatively impact their self-esteem and lead to low motivation for learning. There is therefore a double objective when we aim to renew the enthusiasm for vocational education and training. It's both the opportunities and success pathways offered by vocational education and training, which need to become more visible, and the self-esteem and confidence of young people in vocational education and training, which needs to be supported and developed. With us today, we have Kerstin Torpman-Hagen, the policy officer at the European Commission's Directorate General for Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. And she will provide an overview on existing support and funding opportunities for vocational education training and initial training. And we will then hear from the regions of Catalonia and Manamuras how they are working to increase enthusiasm for vocational education and training and boost self-confidence in young people. For this, we are glad to welcome Miquel Carrion Molina, Deputy Director, Youth Employment and Professional Qualification, Cataluna, and Gabriela Rus, Policy Officer, Economic and Rural Development Department, Alba County Council. I would like to just remember that at all times you can start writing your question in Q&A section, and from that part or the chat, we are going to, at the end of the webinar, open the floor so our speakers can answer a couple of your questions. So let's start with the moderation. We'll start with Kerstin Tortman-Hagen. And Kerstin, could you please give us some overview on existing support and funding opportunities for vocational education training and initial training, and welcome to this webinar. The floor is all yours.
Oh, thank you, and hello everyone. And in case you're wondering how my name is pronounced, it's Kerstin, which is also a hard one. Many thanks for the invitation. I'm very pleased to present a short overview of the unprecedented support and the funding opportunities for strengthening VET. VET is, as you will see, high up on the Commission's agenda, both in a policy framework and in funding opportunities. And it is really a lot of enthusiasm for VET in the Commission. And this is a lot to cover in 10 minutes, but I'll try. Next, please. Well, I would like to start with the first principle of the European Pillar of Social Rights, which is that everyone has the right to quality and inclusive education, training, and lifelong learning. As this is the fundament to the policies and the funding opportunities I will be talking about. Next, please. The Osnabrück Declaration was adopted in November last year, and with it, the member states set out 4 ambitious goals for creating a powerful, future-proof vocational education and training system. They want to increase economic resilience, work together to establish a culture of lifelong learning, to embed the principles of sustainability within vocational education and training, and strengthen the international dimension through cross-border mobility. Next, please. I would also like to show the new policy framework that was adopted last year. And examples from these policies is reforms in VET that facilitate a smoother transition of young people from the world of education to the world of work. And there is a very strong focus on work-based learning and apprenticeships as means to ensure labor market relevance VET and provision for young people. Next, please. The European Union offers significant funding for VET and initial training through several major funds, institutes, or schemes. VET and apprenticeships have been particularly affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and they still, with distance learning methods unable to fully overcome the difficulties, especially in some of the sectors. The digital transition is only part of the change, though, brought about by the need for a climate-neutral economy, artificial intelligence, robotics, and demographic factors. The package of a total of unbelievable 1.8 trillion euros will help rebuild a post-COVID-19 Europe, which will be greener and more digital, more resilient, and better fit for challenges. I would like to briefly cover 6 of these funding opportunities for VET in this presentation. Next, please. Education, training, and skills remain one of the main priorities for cohesion policy. And the European Social Fund and European Regional Development Fund will remain vital funding programs in these areas. And now we're on the next already. And with a budget of almost 87 billion euros, the ESF Plus will support education and training in 3 main ways. It will improve and modernize education and training systems. It will promote equal access to and the completion of quality and inclusive education and training, and anticipating changes and new skill requirements, and also mobility. As part of the Commission's crisis response, REACT-EU will provide an additional almost 15 billion euros. And this top-up will also help to address inequalities in the access to education and training. Next, please. Yeah, I've put together some examples of possible actions within these objectives in the ESF. It would be like develop flexible pathways between sectors of education and training, between education and work, such as learning and career guidance, quality apprenticeship systems for validation of competencies, and development of vocational core profiles. It could be used to develop the competencies of teachers and trainers and school leaders. It could be used to develop high quality educational content, including the use of ICT, like more fit for the vocational studies, skills for the green transition, combating stereotypes in education and training. It could be used to target support for preventing early school leaving from education and training, and this would include also grants, scholarships, and subsidies, in particular those from disadvantaged groups. It could also support the development of digital or distance learning in education and training, and that would also include the access to internet and to digital equipment that we know is an issue. Next, please. The European Regional and Development Fund supports investments in accessible, inclusive, and quality services in education and vocational training, and it creates incentives for educational reforms in the member states. Next, please. In the upcoming program period, ERDF investments can include modernized vocational education and training infrastructure and/or equipment, and employability and adaptation to labor market changes. And in addition, it can also support skills development, in particular concerning the implementation of smart specialization strategies. It's a budget of about 200 billion euros as well. Next, please. The Recovery and Resilience Facility will provide large-scale financial support to reforms and investments undertaken by the member states, with a view to integrate the economic or mitigate the economic and social impact of the coronavirus pandemic, and make European economies and societies more sustainable, resilient, and better prepared to the green and digital transition. While the recovery and resilience plans will reflect the specific situation of each member state, there are some common challenges that call for coordinated investment and reforms. It is an opportunity to create the European flagships with tangible benefits for the economy and citizens across the EU. Member states are strongly encouraged to put forward bold reforms of vocational training, skill systems, supported by investments in training opportunities, teacher training, and digital education resources. Next, please. So Erasmus, that you know well. The Erasmus next, please. The Erasmus program already enables millions of young Europeans to study, train, or learn abroad, while broadening their experiences and awareness of Europe and increasing their future chances on the job market. With a significant increase, a doubling of the budget, more than doubling, from 14 to 30 billion euro, the program will put its full weight in the COVID-19 recovery process and future growth through investment in education and training. And the pre-allocated budget for that is the second biggest, with more than 5 billion euro. Next, please. The aim of the Commission with this budget, the increase in the budget, is to increase the number of beneficiaries, to reach out to people from all social backgrounds, build stronger relations with the rest of the world, focus on promoting forward-looking study fields, for example, renewable energy, climate change, environmental engineering, artificial intelligence, and promote an European identity with a travel experience. Next, please. The future program structure will be these three key actions: mobility, partnership, and support to policy development. Next, please. The TSI provides member states with technical support. The next one, please. Thank you. Yeah. The TSI will provide member states with technical support to strengthen their institutional and administrative capacity in designing and implementing reforms. The member states do not receive funding as such, but technical support for education and training purposes. And their projects are tailor-made and is unique and adapted to the context and the need of the country. Next, please. Yeah, I put in quite a few examples of how they are tailor-made and what kind of projects different countries have had during this, through this program. Okay, next, please. And this is the last one I would like to mention now, the Invest.eu program that brings together under one roof the multitude of existing EU financial instruments. Invest.eu is intended to be more policy-driven and aims to boost investments and job creations by crowding in private investments. It is also an important tool to implement the European social rights and Commission initiatives such as the European Skills Agenda, and thereby strengthening Europe's social dimension. Next, please. The fund is structured along thematic policies, and which in turn will focus on policy priority areas, and among them education, training, and skills. It can contribute to address, for example, providers of education, training, and related services, to expand current and develop new education and training services. And then to my last slide. I'm working a lot with the European Alliance for Apprenticeships. And I would like to just mention two webinars on funding and financing that is coming up. The first one in February will be mainly from the perspective of governments, public authorities, and individuals. And the second one in July will clearly address organizations providing apprenticeship places and employer organizations. And with the invitation to you to participate in these webinars, I would like to conclude my presentations and thank you for the attention. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kerstin. We are learning our names. It's a good. Thank you very much. Before we continue, I know that you expected maybe just to sit in your chairs, everybody, and just watch the webinar. No. Our webinars are always including participants, and we're going to put the first quick poll on, and you can be active as participants and answer a couple of questions that are going to pop up during the course of the webinar. So this is the first quick poll. In your experience, what is the main obstacle to generating enthusiasm for vocational education and training? Feel free to click on the right answer that you actually think that is right. And then we are going to move to our second panelist of today. And we heard now the infrastructure in the sense of financial infrastructure aid that can be beneficial for our countries. But how is the things going on the regional level or on the local level? Well, where the vocational trainings and education are really happening daily. And we're first going to open the mic and we're going to welcome again Miquel Carrion Molina, Deputy Director of Youth Employment in Catalonia. And the first question, Miquel, since we are talking about the vocation and vocational trainee is Leo Messi. Is he going to stay in Barcelona or he is moving?
Don't know. I really know much about football, sorry, soccer.
Okay, we're going to skip then Leo Messi question and move back to the vocational training. So tell us what are the realities in Catalonia regarding the VET possibilities?
Okay, it will be a pleasure. Let me put the presentation. Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting Public Employment Service of Catalonia to this webinar. Thank you for coming, everybody. And thanks also to a Skillman organization. I'm Michael Carrion, I'm the Deputy Director of on Youth Employment and Qualification. So my interest in this webinar is double. I mean, also for the youth enthusiasm and also for the vocational education and training. So it's a pleasure to be here. I would like also to thanks to Marta Massaguet that she cannot be here, and she's the brain of the project that I will show you, and you will see that there has been a lot of work done and quite relevant. Okay, in order to begin, I think it's necessary to give some figures before explaining about how to boost the enthusiasm. And the figures are the unemployment in Catalonia. You see, in Catalonia, there are about 1 million of young people. Less than a half are studying, less than a half are employed, and we have a very significant amount of young people unemployed.
Excuse me,
yes.
Mikel. There is some problems with the presentations. We just see the small
First
part.
one?
We don't see the whole presentations. Could you reshare the screen and maybe it's
Yes,
going
of
to
course.
fix the problem?
Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry.
No problem. It's technical issue. We are used to it. No matter how long we are planning and trying and having the rehearsals, it's always
I don't know how to stop. Sorry. Let me see.
You remember from the top of your screen?
Top of my screen.
There's like a stripe, stop sharing.
Not really. Not really. I don't see it.
Okay, no problem.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Now you have done it. Okay. I will try again.
Sure.
Thank you.
Mikel, do you prefer that we share the screen for you?
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thanks. If you can do that, it will be perfect.
Sure, sure. Valeria, please.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we can go to the second one. And it was about figures. Okay, you see that there are 1,070 people unemployed. So let's another one slide, please. This following. The most relevant is not the global. It's very relevant, but it's not the most relevant global figure. But also how the unemployment is distributed between the young people and the rest of the population. As you see, between 17 and 25 years old, unemployment rate is about 34%. It's quite higher than the rest of the population. So problem in Catalonia, one of the big problems is that unemployment is very concentrated and young population. Next, please. I would like to give only 4 more figures that are relevant to analyze the enthusiasm and boosting the BET programs on youth, that are the following. The first job should be is usually at 70s, not before. I mean, it's very difficult to locate young people with 16, 17, 18, 19, and this is a finding that is very relevant. It's relevant because, as you can see, 100,000 of the unemployed people are less than 25 years old. So there is a huge challenge here, as you can see. And also, it's fit with the fact that 35,000 never have got a job before. Then the challenge is increasing. You see that we have a very quite challenging situation. And another question very important to share with you is that 73,000 are registered, only 73,000 are registered in the Public Employment Service. You see that all the activated young people is a little proportion of of the unemployed people. Next, please. To these figures, I have to add that there is another question important to share before, that is the dropouts. The dropout rate now in Catalonia is about 18%. It means that, and in case of males, is 25%. It means that 1 of each 4 young people doesn't finish the compulsory education. With that, I think the figures are quite significant in order to put on the floor, put on the table, put a public policy in order to solve it. Our mission should be to return them to the education system or enter to the labor market. Go then, please, with the next slide, because that's the point we are here for. Generating enthusiasm for VET and boosting self-confidence. I would like to share with you the main fundings we have find in the project. I will be talking of a project that is called New Opportunities. Is funded by European Commission with a social fund, European Social Fund, and it has been working from 2016. So the findings are quite relevant. First of all, the personal approach. Youth should be in the center. It means that they need an integral treatment. We have to coordinate social services, health services, community services, and all in a one-stop shop. As you know, it's relevant for most of the public policies, but in our case, it's fundamental. Go with the next, please. Also, with the one-stop shop, it should be a personal guidance. A personal guidance means that you have to know who is him or her, and her family or his family, and you should be you should be a coach, in other words. And this guidance should take into account the feelings, soft skills, the bed provision, the bed guidance. So you have to know, to have an holistic vision of the person, that it's critical. And then the support should be 24 hours, 7 days a week. I know that this is challenging for a public service, and it's also a challenge in order to design and set up a public program. But this is a finding that we wanted to share with you. Next, please. Another one will be that related to bed, and the bed should be related to them, not related to the ability of the bed center. Most of the programs, depending on the provider, on the model, probably we try to invite them to be waiters or gardening or some occupation that the bed center of the program is familiarized with. But not, the finding is that they have to be able to choose. And they have to taste most of the occupations in order to have a good choose. And then this is a challenging too in order to design the public policy, but it's a finding that I want to put on the table. It also has to do with a longer training process. The training process should be longer than in education system. Another one, please. Yes, this is another finding in order to boost and to increase the enthusiasm. The companies and the employers should be from the very beginning. This is critical too in order for them to think what they can be in the future. So the fact that the enterprises are from the very beginning allow us to design policies that permit that young people get in contact with most diversity of occupations. Next, please. Another findings are a methodology. Should be more time. And one of the most important findings is allow them to go and return. We have to be a sandy beach and not rocks. And it means that the process of the methodology, the program, the learning process should take it into account. They can't make mistakes. And it's critical also in order to contrapose these proposals with the education system, or the conventional education system. Please, the next, please. So in order to use my time, only to say that young people should be in the center, longer training itineraries, flexible training itineraries across different sectors, relationships with the companies from the very beginning, and long-term and permanent advice to the young people in order to avoid the fall down and a lack of motivation. And thank you very much. And I hope if you have some question, I will answer later. Thank you very much. And thanks, Valentina.
Gracias, Miquel. As you've seen in the chat section, you can start writing and preparing your questions. And if you really would like to be heard, just press the raise your hand button, and we are going to let you in. We're going to put the next poll on to see how you think and what are your observations regarding the next question before we are going to give the floor to Gabriela Rus. She will be talking also from the local realities, and she's working as the policy officer, Economic and Rural Development Department in Alba County Council in Romania. And the big problems of the Eastern European countries, including Croatia as well, is the brain drain problem. And the students who are staying in our countries usually dislike to enroll in vocational training, or they are forced to. And we're always having problems with the esteem and with the respect that vocational training deserves in all of the countries. And since the poll is on, the question is, what would you like to get from this webinar? There are multiple choices, of course, and you can press and answer the second poll. And Gabriela, if you are ready, we can start to listen to your presentation. Yes. Regarding the realities in Alba County regarding the vocational education and training, and how you are boosting self-confidence of young people in that beautiful part of Europe. Feel free to use the floor, and I would again just like to recommend to use the Q&A section or the chat part to ask the questions for our panelists. And after Gabriela, we're going to open the floor and we're going to answer those questions. Gabriela.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see and hear me all. I'm going to present you our county administration support of vocational education and training, and I will start sharing my presentation now. I'm trying to. Yes. Now, allow me, please, to briefly introduce you the country and the region I'm coming from. The following slides contain several general information about Romania, which is situated in the southeastern part of Europe, for those who don't know. Romania's capital is Bucharest, the official language is Romanian, and the currency is the Romanian leu. The place I live in is, you can see it on the map in blue on the right of the slide, Alba County, a heart-shaped place situated in Transylvania that you probably heard of, with the capital Alba Iulia, where you can see the largest, best preserved Vauban-style citadel in southeastern Europe. Alba County is the administrative unit with the following structures. You can see on the slide all the municipalities, towns, communes, and villages. In the collage down on the slide, you can see pictures of the monuments and the most representative churches in Alba County. Few things about Alba County's economy, which is mainly oriented towards processing industry. There is an old tradition in mechanic field, and now international companies set up businesses here, activating in automotive field. Our most developed sectors are automotive and food industry, namely poultry, dairy, fruit and vegetable manufacture, honey, and wine making. The agricultural sector is represented on this slide. At animal breeding, we have at poultry, the largest producer in Romania in this field located here. Vegetable growing and fruit growing and viticulture. The rural tourism is developed in the mountain and hilly areas, and regarding viticulture, it is a very well represented field, and major producers are established here. Now, Alba County Council is the county public administration, which is part of the Center Development Region, NUTS 2, along with other 5 counties. The Economic and Rural Development Department, where I work in, carries out activities supporting the economic development, making the county more visible for investors, but also supporting the educational field, mainly VET. As public authority, as far as the legal documents allow us, we identify, we have facilitate the collaboration between educational providers, local public authorities, and business environment. A major concern for us is related to dual and vocational education and training, because companies can't find trained workforce. This is why we have elaborated the local strategy in the field of education and professional training. Some of the identified problems are put on this slide. There are quite a lot. Reduced number of registered students in VET, insufficient VET promotion, an increasing trend of school leaving in upper secondary level and VET education in particular, low performances of students enrolled in technological education at baccalaureate, mainly in technical field, deficient school-based practice units facilities unadapted to current technological demands, ineffective teaching methods to boost learning used by teaching staff, a very complex curriculum, insufficient contact of lower secondary education students with the business environment, career counseling starts unfortunately too late in order to have the expected impact, and the lack of qualified staff for career counseling services. Some of the menaces we have identified are probably the same as in many other countries. We are starting with the demographic decrease, the increased unemployment of youth, the students' lack of interest in learning and working, and the lack of enthusiasm in appreciating the crucial importance of professions. In Alba County, the most wanted specializations are mechanics and tourism and food industry at vocational education, and also mechanics and electromechanics in dual education. The dual education became more visible in our county once the German type dual school was set up in 2013 with the economic operator support. As a result of the local strategy I was telling you about earlier, a very close partnership was set up between schools, economic operators, and the county administration in order to support VET. A local working group was created in 2019, and periodical meetings were organized. Its members are the county representatives, the county school inspectorate, the County Center of Educational Resources and Counseling, along with 6 economic operators from the following fields: food industry, automotive, ceramics, and construction. A major project called Dual and Vocational Education, A New Beginning, was starting in order to look for solutions regarding the harmonization of educational offer and the labor market. Starting with September 2019, the working group carried out an awareness-raising campaign in 8 urban and 13 rural areas, which targeted mostly parents of 13 and 14 years old students in upper secondary schools. This approach aimed to supply additional information to students and their parents regarding the opportunities of a professional career in technical field, with special focus on promoting handicrafts and the financial independence of the youngsters from an early age. Each partner came voluntary with its expertise and tried to support this initiative by testimonials, short videos of what happens in a factory, and practical examples of how well-paid, prepared specialists are, the one who graduated from vocational or dual education, compared to a graduate from another educational program who is studying so many years and has no work experience. As a result of the campaign in the rural area, the VET working group realized parents do not have the necessary information or simply do not know where to find it. Although schools organize from time to time open day events or trips to companies, but it seems it is still not enough. This is the reason why the VET working group decided to apply a skills and professional interest questionnaire to 13 and 14 years old students in order to find out what educational path they want to follow according to their personality features and skills. This questionnaire was a good instrument to help students know themselves better and to help them choose the right path accordingly. As a support for parents who do not have the information about choosing the right qualification for their child, a big event was discussed to be organized in the county capital, Alba Iulia, in May 2020, the Educational Offer Fair. The purpose of this important event was to present both students and parents the advantages of vocational and dual education, as well as the educational units who can prepare such specialists. Unfortunately, the sanitary crisis didn't allow organizing public events and the fair was canceled. For the future, the VET working group would like to continue the parents' meetings in the territory, to bring in new members from the economic operators, and in order to speak to the parents, and to try to organize the educational offer fair this year. To conclude my presentation, the partnership between schools, administration, business environment, and parents in Alba County is an example for raising the enthusiasm towards VET, but there are still a lot of things to be done in this respect. Thank you so much for your attention, and I'm glad I could share our experience with all of you present today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriela. It was great to see how concrete action can be quite beneficial to promote the vocational training and to help it boost among the young people, and how can fuel actually the economic of certain countries. Since we are 7 minutes still active, we'll try to be now more faster and more concrete. If you have any questions, you really are desperate to ask, please raise the hand and we are going to ask for you, or you can ask yourself. However, well, since Michele is starting to answering the 2 questions in the Q&A section, we're going to let him answer the questions. And if somebody has some other question to bring up or to ask inside the chat section or to raise the hand.
Okay, thank you. In order to answer the question about preference to VET programs, we do questionnaires of competence Of course, but the most important is being with them 8 hours a day. That's the way you can feel what would be the preference in order to get to engage a BED program. Also, in order to answer the next question that is similar in some ways, we visit different enterprises and companies in all the programs. We have more than 1,000 companies involved in the project from 2016. So this is one way in order to get how you can get involved in BED programs or in BED training. Storytelling, white people goes to the program and explains about his or her life. Occupation fairs, as our colleague showed us, is a way in order to decide. Sharing experience with other programs. Also the apprenticeships. In some cases, we use apprenticeship as the way to test and to experience different occupations. And of course, in many cases, I think that is, well, I think no, it's a 30% of the young people get contracted in a labor relationship. So it's a way of successful. And about the question about the BED programs, how they participate in the design of the BED programs. In fact, our programs are mostly defined previously. It's a very good observation, and I will take it as a possibility to improve that the young people participate in the design of the BED program. That I don't think so is commonly used. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael. Valentina?
Yes, I have a few raised hands, so I'm just going to let first Andrea Livingston Prince to speak, and then Urs Hauenstein, who is also asking for the microphone.
Okay, Gabriela, you can answer your question in Q&A section, and yes. Andrea Livingston, you can take the floor.
Let us know if you can speak, Andrea.
Hello?
Yes.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hongia Elvis. I'm a advanced vocational training teacher from Cameroon, that's Africa, Central Africa. My question is just going to be briefed. I just wish to plead if it is possible for you people to make a collaboration to help the African, so that us as teachers or advanced us like vocational training staff, we can benefit some professional experience from already experts like you. It will really be helpful for us in the third world country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anybody would like to answer the question of potential cooperation? Michael, Gabriela, Kerstin?
Of course, if you want, I will write here my contact, and we are open to establish any relationship that improve our knowledge and competences. Of course, I will do it just now.
Thank you. Okay. Valentina, how about Andrea?
Yeah, Andrea just spoke now. I will just open the microphone from Urs Hauenstein, who's also trying to speak, and let's see what his question is. Okay, Urs, whenever you want, you can turn on your microphone.
Many thanks. I'm Urs Hauenstein, President of the International Council for Education and Management, sitting in Switzerland. We are speaking today about the core of boosting self-confidence in youth. And my question is very, very short and very quick. What is your hidden secret to heighten the effectiveness of self-confidence of youth?
Thank you, Urs. Maybe Gabriela can try to answer. How did you boost the confidence in Romania?
Well, by the actions I told you in the presentation, but there are still a lot of things to be done in this respect, because the mentality of the parents and also of some of the teaching staff is it's a long-term action to be done. So we are still having a lot to do in this respect, because most of the parents think that if their child would follow an academic approach, with an academic educational path, it would be better for him. But the practical thing is most of the graduates from academic fields don't or couldn't find a job in the field they have prepared and they have studied. So this is very, very sad, because we have to focus more about the other jobs that have to be done by someone.
Thank you.
Gabriela.
Valentina, go ahead, somebody else.
Do we have time? I'm going to ask you because you are the moderator, you have the power of the webinar.
I have the power. Well, since we have lots of questions in the Q&A part, maybe Mikel and Gabriela and Kerstin can check them and see if they can start answering them by writing or by commenting, or if somebody else raised the hand, since there are obviously a lot of questions and the interest of the participants is high. Of course, if you have enough time, you can we can continue with the seminar. If you need to leave, feel free to go, but maybe a couple of questions more from the participants who raised the hand.
Okay, I have a raised hand from Bob Mahahe Turian Tugang. So I will just give you the authorization to activate your microphone and ask your question. Can you hear us, Bob?
Hello, I'm hearing you. Can you hear me?
Yes, your voice is a little bit low. Is there any chance that you can raise it a little bit?
Thank you very much, Valentina, and all the panelists for today. I'm happy that I have been able to at least have something physically to you. I have been attending most of the meetings, but passing on some messages. But thank you very much for this opportunity. My question goes to Gabriela and Morina. I'm very much happy for the presentations they have presented before us, and I have noted some of the things that all of them maybe are being shared with us in our country, Uganda. We have noticed a very big challenge concerning with vocational education training, negativity, enthusiasm. Most young people, parents and the government have less interest in promoting hands-on skills or vocational educational training at a very big percentage and at a higher rate. So when Gabriela was presenting, I noticed that something might have been closed to different other areas, and this topic in particular concerning with enthusiasm of vocational skills training has touched me, and I felt like if there could be a way that in smaller groups and our collaboration through Skillman, we could be in position to write small projects and identify opportunities together, but in smaller groups under Skillman. If there could be that possibility, I request you, people, such that we take away this opportunity since we are under this network, Skillman, such that we can always reach far together and share some different ideas in regards reaching out to our people with skills and creating employment as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob. It was a long question. Maybe can we have the short answer from Gabriela or Mikel, or we can just connect you, since this is also a networking webinar for the future reference and the future projects, but maybe shortly you can answer the question for Bob.
It was a bit quite too long question, and I couldn't quite understand, but I will try to answer the other questions I have received. How did we manage to measure the rate of success, let's say? Well, we are starting to monitor the graduation number of the students and of those who enroll in following the vocational education and training, and by doing so we can make an idea if our approach was successful or not. But along with all the partnership with schools, parents, and economic environment, we are determined to continue our approach, because parents need to find out of the importance of VET, especially from the economic agents. Their voice seems to be more, how can I say, understandable for them, or they feel confident when they hear someone from a certain company tells them how hard it is to find a specialized workforce in their company. So they'll have to change their focus on following the alternative education, the vocational education, namely.
Okay, thank you, Gabriela. I would also like to invite Bob and Gabriela and Mikhail to share the contacts and to maybe answer more deeply afterwards. So we'll have enough time for the other questions. Valentina, can we get?
Yes, sorry, Hrvoje. I have an idea. I will share briefly the instructions and the information to tomorrow's event before everybody. Before some of our attendees will leave this space, because we are over the time. And I would just like to remind all of you that tomorrow, if you want to be connected with us, we will have another webinar, this time about technical and vocational education and training during times of lockdown and pandemic. And Irene Psifido from CEDEFOP will be there to show us the early school leaving kit. And we will also have two other examples and experiences to share with you tomorrow. Julia will be able to share the registration link. So if anyone wants to join, please register to the link that my colleague is sharing. Now we can move, we can continue with the questions. I have actually Andrea Livingston who's raising his hands again, so I will just let him speak. Just a second. Okay, let's see if...
Okay, thank you and good morning from Jamaica. When I joined, it was 4 a.m. So I will try to be as lucid as possible. So I'm really grateful to be a part of this community, and thank you for the effort that you put into ensuring that there's knowledge share. We thank you. My point piggybacks on exactly what Gabriela said a while ago. And for us as BusinessWorks, we're a private sector development training institution and consultants, and we are developing a platform where we convert the training that TVET practitioners receive into businesses. So we intend to birth over 300 micro enterprises before this pandemic is over, which we expect in the next 2 years. So that's one of the things that we intend to do. There's a trend for TVET, for people in the trades, to be employees. We want to, as entrepreneurship trainers, we want to instill and to add on top of their TVET training or skills training, the customer management and the entrepreneurship training to make a whole enterprise that is viable. We want to rent the tools. All these things are barriers. After you have your certificate, what next? I can't afford the tools. There's no way to get the market and so on. So jobs seem to be the only way. So underemployment or unemployment is high, and that affects the brand that TVET has. That what's the point? So you may get a one job or an internship, but what next? So we intend to fill that gap through entrepreneurship. So if there's anyone who'd like to partner with us, we're open.
Thank you, Andrea. Obviously, this webinar will going to bring up new partnerships and friendships among the continent. Obviously, then vocational training is something we need to focus on the future reference. And if we have maybe one more question, Valentina, and then we are going to conclude the discussion.
All right, I don't have any other raised hands. So if anyone wants to raise the hand, please do it now. I just saw in the chat box someone who's asking about, just let me scroll up a bit. I was seeing that Julien is asking the questions. Do you have a training program in French and how to set up partnerships? Thank you, Julien from France. I don't know if we want to answer this question in the meantime until we have any other questions.
If that's it, then we're going to conclude the webinar. And thank you very much for participating.
Sorry, one last question. I have a raised hand. Just last one and then we close, promise. Because I know Yunus and I know he is very much interested in this and other topics. So I would like him to speak. Yunus from Turkey, right? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. My question is about what is the importance of the enthusiasm of the young people on the work learning, and it is facilities of predict the unemployment rate in the Europe. You understand my question? Is it enough to entice and to push the young people for work learning to invent the unemployment rate to decrease unemployment rate in Europe? What do you think about it?
Teşekkürler Yunus. Somebody would like to answer to Yunus, Gabriela, Mikel, or Kerstin about the lowering the rate of unemployment, maybe using the vocational education, training, and jobs?
Okay, in our case, I think it's mostly the case in Europe. Is better, and I think somebody said that it's easier to get a job with a BED program, and of course a high BED program, but also a low BED program is easier to get a job like this than with an academic studies, a practical information. So that's one signal of the market in order to encourage and get people involved in that. I think it's quite important because most of the time we are talking about getting a job. So I think it could be a interesting signal.
Okay. I read about the paper, just resume that you pushed in the screen, and I try to learn something, find out something. Thank you very much for your answer.
Thank you.
Okay, then. I think we can conclude today's webinar. It's already 30 minutes past, and the charity auction of Bernie Sanders is going on. I would like to thank every one of you for participating, especially to our panelists who opened and raised up certain questions, which actually just prove again how important vocational training is. We've heard about the potential cooperation between not only the organizations, but also the governments, the continents, but also bear in mind that we actually heard at the beginning how much money was allocated for the vocational training projects. So if we all can use them to promote the vocational training, we can do a good beneficial part for the students and for the economy of our countries. And since obviously the local level and the regional level is the one who is most important in the promotion and boosting the confidence in the vocational training, and those great innovative practices from Romania and Spain can easily be copy-pasted in our regions, and maybe try to focus on how to use them more profoundly in order to put well, the state of mind in that specific sense, that not everything is within the high-skilled labor. There's also, you can be high-skilled worker even if you actually are enrolling in the vocational education. And to conclude, I would also like to invite you again for tomorrow's webinar, Vocational Training in Times of Lockdown and Pandemic. We're going to broaden up the information and the topic of this in this new normal, although it's not normal at all. But this is a good opportunity actually to see how the vocational training can be well used even in the COVID crisis situation. So thank you very much for your attention and attending this webinar. I bid you a fond farewell from AER and on the behalf of the Skillman, and looking forward to seeing you, some of you, maybe tomorrow and in some future webinars. Valentina, the last comments?
Yes, sure. I just would like to say that I hope to see many of you tomorrow to tomorrow's webinars, and also I will leave the room open just for a few minutes. So whoever wants to get information or contacts through the chat box, please feel free to do it. So thank you very much for participating, and I hope to see you tomorrow.
Bye, thank you.